We are in some fun times, and I'm switching my mindset in how I say everything. And this was something really interesting happened this morning. And we're feeling it in our own household, right? The ups and the downs of the energies we're in. And my husband is recently he had a love for running, and he was a marathoner and did marathons all over the world, blah blah blah. And he kind of dropped out of that, and he just wasn't feeling it, and so he left it. And he's has a desire to come back, so he's starting to get back into running, and he's out of shape. And he said to me this morning, he goes, I had a 5 mile run, and he said, boy, I have room for growth. And instead of saying, man, I'm so out of shape, his whole like demeanor and how he said it is like, wow, I have this a lot of room for growth. I was like, where is this coming from? And it reminded me of what's been happening the last few days. And I'm working with a couple clients who are going into this, and something came forward for me like 3 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. And there was this like, so I'll say it in this way. I was working through something, right? And I'll just put it in real terms. Okay. So I was paying bills, all right? And I was going through the bill payment. And in the past, my cycle, my energy would be stress, stress, stress. Because we're kind of hitting a low. My husband's in real estate. So if you know anything about real estate right now, it's not a fun time. So so we were in a low, and I was paying the bills, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could pay everything. I paid everything. And there was instead of the energy being like this drudgery, this like, oh, this heavy feeling of paying bills, it was like some wave came over me, and I got very excited. I was like, oh my gosh, everything got paid this month. And it was like this celebration. And then I went into like, why is this shift? Why is this shift happening? What is with this? And when I started to tune in, the structures that we have been dismantling within us are shifting. Even our mindset, the way we perceive is dramatically shifting. So the structures that are being dismantled right now are really around those power over dynamics. And a couple of us were kind of chatting in a group chat before this, the folks that are in the ancestor classes. And someone brought up a really great question around this idea of um, when do we know when when do we know we're really like, why is it so important to be behind our eyes and in our bodies versus the old bubbles of protection that we used to use? And some beautiful people brought up some really graceful ways of explaining that. And it brought me into the place of, oh, these structures that are dismantling, we need to really remember that we are not in the old paradigm anymore. That old paradigm way of being was the power over dynamics that we lived within for so long. A lot of what we are healing ancestrally, what we are healing within ourselves, has to do with those structures, those power over dynamics that we were living within as a collective on this planet. And some of you have connections and experience and worked with like the Orion piece, which is where kind of the dark forces came in through Orion. And that's really where those power over dynamics kind of started to hit us cosmically and within this planet. We are breaking all that up. This is why we're shifting so much into this new paradigm, this new way of being. Even our physicality is shifting. And so these structures that are being dismantled within us are breaking down the ways of being that we used to hold, which was you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z in this way. And these institutional structures, these societal structures, these cultural structures, these ancestral structures, the creations of patterns and cycles we created within ourselves, all of that is dismantling and shifting. And so today, the message that came in loud and clear is, where are we still not in our sovereignty? Where are we not embracing our sovereignty? Are we holding on to a particular structure? Are we holding on to a way of being? Is there still external influences that are impacting that? So that's where we're headed today. And it's exciting to go on this path to see what else. And what the new is the new lens, the new mindset, the new perspective of things. Like what else is possible? I have room for growth versus, man, I'm so out of shape or whatever it is. That's the perspective that we're really starting to come into, the celebrating of our wins in new ways and these new ways of being.